Hi there, welcome to Average Joe's Pool. Today we are taking a look at how to level up your pool table frame ready to put the slates on. Let's take a look. So there's a couple of tools that you're definitely going to need to help you level up your pool table frame correctly. First of which is you need a couple of decent carpenter levels. I've got here a 6-foot and also a 4-foot. And in addition to that, I've also got here a 12-inch machinist level. Now the machinist level is not essential when it comes to level up your frame, however it can be very useful for fine tuning. But when it comes to fit the slates of the table and to level up those slates, this is an essential piece of kit. So if you do have one, it's also very useful to use at the same time for leveling up the frame. There's actually two main ways of leveling up your pool table frame, and in this video we're going to have a look at both methods so you can choose which makes more logical sense to you and which you would prefer to use. As we proceed through the process, there's something that you want to keep in the back of your mind, and that is that there is a minimum and maximum height specification from the floor up to the playing surface of your table as regulated by the WPA. And that regulation states that the minimum bed height is 29 1/4 inches and the maximum is 31 inches. And that's the measurement from the floor up to the playing surface of the table. So that will be the top of your slates. So it's a really good idea at this stage to take the measurement of the thickness of your slate, including the backing material, so you can add that on to the height that you're working with when you're leveling your table, because you need to make sure that your table doesn't go above the maximum, which is 31 inches to the top of the slate, not to the top of the frame. And so keeping that in the back of your mind, let's jump in and take a look at method number one. So starting off with method number one. In this method what we're going to do is we're going to use our spirit levels to determine which of our 4 feet is physically the highest. So what we need to do is take our level, put that across one side and just check the level. Now I can see here my bubble's going slightly in this direction, which means I'd have to pick up this end physically up a little bit to get it level. So that's telling me that this leg would have to come up to be level with this one. So this leg in this corner must be higher than this one. So then what you do is you come around to this end. We know so far that this one is higher than that one. And this time we'll come across. And again our bubble is leaning in this direction. And I have to pick this end up quite a lot actually to get that level. So this one is definitely lower than this one. So far of the 3, this is our highest. So we'll carry on around the table. So my bubble's pointing in this direction, which means that this end would have to come up. So that's showing me that this leg right here is higher than this one right here. And finally onto the other end. Bubble's going a tiny bit in this direction, so this would have to come up a tiny bit. So this leg is a tiny bit lower than this leg here. Now very often when you do this it can be very obvious which is your highest corner. However, in our particular scenario we've got the worst case scenario, and that is when we're getting a reading of 2 high legs in opposite corners. Now of course if you've got a really long spirit level, like a 10-foot level, you can run that corner to corner and just take that level and work out which is the highest of those 2. But most people are probably going to have a maximum of a 6-foot level, so how do we determine of our opposite corners which is actually the highest? Well, if you remember as we went round, when we took this first measurement here, it would actually need to be raised up quite a lot on that end to make it level. And so that's telling us that this leg is considerably higher than that leg. However, when we took the measurement here on the end, this was pretty much bang on level. It only needs a small amount of adjustment to make it level. So that will basically tell us that because we're running quite a big angle, obviously I'm massively exaggerating, this foot needs to come up quite a lot to match this one, but on this end it's almost level, then this leg, this corner right here, must be lower than that corner there. So therefore we know that our highest corner must be this one right here. So now we've established which is the highest leg, we need to raise the level of the other legs up so they match our highest one. However, before we do that, we need to make sure that we're actually happy with the height of our highest leg. And the reason for that, if you remember, we have those WPA specifications for the minimum and maximum bed height. That's the height from the floor to the top of your slate. And that is a minimum of 29 1/4 inches and a maximum of 31 inches. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have the measurement of your slate, including the backing material, and then you're going to take a couple of measurements from the frame. So I'm just going to take a measurement next to where the foot is, up to the frame here, make a note of that, and now take the same measurement here, again roughly in line with the centre of the leg, to the top of the frame here. And then what you can do is you can add to that the thickness of your slate plus the backing material, and that will give you the total height from the floor to the bed of your table as this leg currently stands. And of course you want to make sure that it's within that WPA specification. The reason that we take that measurement from two places is the floor might not be completely level, so you might get a slightly different measurement on one side to the other. And of course it's the highest one that you need to go with. And what you might want to do is you might actually want to raise this leg up before we start leveling any further. To give you an example, I'm 6'5" and I prefer to set the tables up on the higher side of that WPA specification. So we'll be setting this table up as close as we can to that 31 inches. Now if you're going to be raising up your highest leg, as we are going to, one thing to bear in mind is when you come to adjust the slate, you're going to be putting wedges in during the levelling process. So just to be safe, you want to leave probably 1/4 inch or so below that specification, just to allow for any rising of the slates when those shims go in. So next let's take a look at method number 2, and this is quite a bit different. What we're going to do this time is we're going to level up the ends separately. So we've got the end of the table here with these two legs. We're going to ensure that it's level in this direction, and likewise we'll come to the other end of the table and we'll make sure that these two legs are level in this direction. And we're not going to worry at all initially about the level in this direction. So what we're trying to do is get these two legs level with gravity and these two legs level with gravity. And once we've done that, that's when we'll be looking at the level end to end, and we can make the adjustment as required. So then essentially we've only got to adjust 2 feet at the end. But before we jump in and start leveling this up, we have that same problem as before with the WPA specifications for the bed height. And so it's a really good idea at this stage to check the relation between the floor and the top surface right here of your frame. And you're going to want to do that in all 4 corners. And the reason why it's important to do that at this stage is if, for example, I just came over here and I set this one up to 31 inches or just under 31 inches, about 1/4 inch under 31 inches, and I then put my level across here and I leveled this one up to match that one, so I know that I'm happy on that, that's 31 inches, and I come over to the other end and I get that level again, then when I come to do this, I might well find that this pair of legs is actually sat higher than this pair of legs, and so this would be over the 31 inches in theory. And of course some pool tables, if you haven't got a levelling system built in, you can't actually take size away. You can make it higher, but you've got no way to make it lower. Now of course your pool table shouldn't be over that WPA specification at its lowest height anyway, so it probably wouldn't be a concern, but it's always a good practice just to run around and take these measurements and find out which is the best corner to start on. And this is different to the system that we did before, where we were actually using levels to find out which was the highest leg. This is completely different to that because the level is irrelevant at this stage. What we're looking for is the difference in height from the floor up to our frame. And of course the floor can be uneven in spots, so the floor might be completely unlevel, but it's that measurement that we want. We don't want to rely on levels at this stage. So we'll start at corner number 1, just measuring from the floor. So by taking those measurements in each of those 4 corners, I've determined that the highest corner from the ground, again forgetting the level, is going to be this leg right here. Now as before, what you can do is you can take that measurement, add on to that the height of your slate, including the backing material, and see where that sits within that WPA specification. If you want to make an adjustment to that leg, if you want to bring it up a little bit, and now's the time to do it. So how do we actually adjust the height of our legs on our pool table? Well, that's going to depend entirely on the type of pool table that you have. So for example, on the Olhausen Grand Champion 3, which is the pool table we have here, these have metal feet that actually spin, so you can spin the feet, rotate them around, and as you rotate them you can actually adjust the level up and down. And on things like the Diamond Pro-Am, they've actually got a levelling system built into the legs. They've got a little slot in the bottom of the legs. You can put in your spanner and just move it one way or the other, and that will start to raise or lower the table. However, most pool tables probably don't have any kind of levelling system built into them at all. So they will have a more of a fixed leg design. And so of course in this particular video we will be demonstrating on this table which has the rotatable feet. However, I know a lot of people that are watching this will likely have fixed legs. Thankfully the process for adjusting the height of fixed legs is also very simple. You can buy special rubber shims which are about 3 inches in diameter, round shims, and they come in a variety of different thicknesses. And again, you can buy them on Amazon. They're not silly money, and we will add some links for you into the video description below. They're not the easiest thing to find on Amazon, but we will have the links there for you. And all you need to do, if you've got a fixed leg on your pool table, to adjust the height to raise it up, all you need to do is grab one of those shims in the correct thickness, or stack them if you need a little bit thicker. Physically lift that leg up, slide the shim underneath, and then pop it back down. But regardless of what type of leg you have on your pool table, whether or not you have an inbuilt levelling system, we need to ensure that we get all of these legs level. So the first thing that we're going to do is get onto our highest leg, and I'm going to raise that up as high as we can to within the WPA specs. So we know this is our highest leg in relation to the floor. And we've also taken the measurements of here, including the thickness of the slate with the backing material. And we've calculated that we can raise this foot up about 1/4 inch, and that will still be within the maximum of 31 inches for the WPA spec. And that will also allow about 1/4 inch wiggle room for the levelling of the slates. That should be more than enough for the levelling of the slates, but you have got to allow just a little bit. So we're going to bring the level of this leg up. As I mentioned before, if you've got fixed legs, what you do is you just lift that up, and you'd have a quarter, if you want to raise it up by 1/4 inch, you get 1/4 inch shim, you just put that underneath the foot and lower it back down. However, on this particular pool table, we've got the legs that spin, so we're going to lift it up, spin the leg, put it back down, take that measurement again, until we're happy that we've come up by that 1/4 inch. So I've just made my adjustment, so I'm going to double check my measurement. And I need to go up just a little bit more. And there we go, we're now bang on the height that we want to be on this corner. And so all you need to do for method number 1 is, if you want to make an adjustment to your highest leg before you carry on, do that first of all, and then you're just going to go round with the spirit level and bring the second leg up so it's absolutely level with that first leg, and likewise come from this leg down to this leg, ensure that that's level, and then finally the end. And then go around a couple of times, make sure that you've got it nice and level between those 4 legs. So all you're doing essentially is bringing the other 3 legs up to match the height of your highest one. So now we start the levelling process. So what we want to do is we want to bring this leg up level with this one. So I'm going to put our level across the table in this direction. And of course it should be showing us when you look at that bubble that this leg needs to come up to match this one, which it does. So we need to make that adjustment, bringing this leg up to get the level correct. So we've now got this foot and this foot level across the end of the table in relation to one another. So now take the spirit level straight to the opposite end of the table, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing here, levelling up these 2 legs. Don't worry what the level is lengthways along the table, end to end. What you want to worry about is what the level is just between these 2 feet. Remember, we're doing these 2 feet as one level, and then completely separate these 2 feet as another level. We're not worrying about the level in this direction just yet. So now I've leveled up this end of the table as well, so I know that this end is level and this end is level. However, what we don't know at this stage is how these 2 are in relation to one another, i.e. which one is higher than the other on these 2 ends of the table. So to allow us to discern that, we'll take our spirit level again, run that down long ways, and we'll check the level. And as expected, we know that this was the highest leg, so I can see that the bubble's going in that direction, which is showing me that this end should need to come up to match the height at this end. And if you quickly go around and check the height on the other end, remember, of course, that across the end here, that's level and that's level. So when we check this, the difference in height between them should be about the same. So when you look at your bubble, it should require about the same amount of lift. I'm just lifting the end of the level here just to see the bubble move. It should take around the same kind of level. So what we're looking to do is raise these two legs evenly, and so the height on there should run flush with these, so the whole thing will be level. So I'm going to make the adjustment to the leg in this corner. I'm going to pay attention to how much I physically turn it, because what I want to do is turn the other one by the exact same amount. So now I'm happy with that. That was 16 small turns on that particular foot. So I'm going to take this around to the other side, and hopefully it should take 16 on this side as well. Yeah, pretty close. One more for luck. Okay, so now reading level in that direction as well. I'm saying to come up on this corner now. As is that. As is that. So I'm now confident that I've got a nice and level frame. I've been around all four sides of this frame with my spirit levels, and I've got it as close to spot on as I possibly can. However, if you own a Machinist level, now's a good opportunity to use it. This is an optional stage. Take your Machinist level and put it on top of your Carpenter level. And then take the reading there, and again, obviously repeat this on all four sides of the table. And this will allow you to really fine tune that level. You can get pretty darn close using the Carpenter's level, but this will allow you to get it, absolutely spot on. Another thing that's always worth double checking before you consider it job done is we've already been around the outsides of these, we're happy that these are nice and flat and level. It's always worth double checking the centre frame, and some reasons for that is it's always useful to know, like for example this is going to support the slates, so when we put our slates on here we might have a slate that's showing us that we've got like a crowned slate, and that can be as simple as something like the centre support here actually being bowed, being slightly bent upwards, and that will show as a crowned slate, a tiny little crown in the slate when we come to level up the slates. So it's important to know if you've got anything which is likely to be out of alignment, and make a mental note of it now, so that when you put the slates on, if you do have a problem, you can go, well, that's likely that thing that I noticed when I did this part of the process. So a couple of things you can do: take a level, place it halfway in, and just take a note of the level. Is the centre, this point right here, sat higher or lower than the outside of the frame right here? And obviously you can repeat that there on the other side. And another thing you can do as well to check the level is you can get a longer edge like this and have a kind of a feel how smoothly that passes. Obviously if I run this across the top and I'm getting this clicking the edge of the spirit level, and that's going to show me that this piece of wood in the centre is likely to be bowed upwards. Now if you've got a slight dip in it, that's actually preferable of the two options, rather than it being raised. Because of course if it's got a dip in it, and when it comes to level up your slates, you can put shims in and fill that gap as required. But if you've got a centre frame support such as this and it is bowed upward, then that could cause, like I mentioned before, a problem with a small crown on your slates. So now's the time, just spend a couple of minutes just making sure you've got no high spots and no potential problem spots. And if you think that you do, to make a mental note of it, because when it comes to the slate process, at least you have in your mind what potentially that problem could be. And so we now have a nice and level pool table frame. And so our frame now is ready to install the slates, then level the slates, and start the cloth fitting process. I've actually done separate videos on all of those different processes, as well as a complete pool table installation video, and you will find links to all of those in the video description below. So thank you very much for watching. We hope this video has been helpful for you. If it has, can you be sure to take 1 second out of your busy day just to hit that like button for us? It really does help us out. Likewise, be sure to check out our channel, Average Joe's Pool, for loads more dedicated pool-related videos. And when you're there, you might want to hit that subscribe button to really help us out. We appreciate it. We'll see you again.